Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy chief of staff, who might be looking at a promotion soon, we'll see how things go for Susie Wiles, reportedly received $175,000 from his pro-Trump nonprofit America First Legal, just prior to him joining the second Trump administration, and all of this comes from newly reported tax filings. So here's reporting from NOTUS. Last year, America First Legal paid current White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller a $75,000 bonus plus a $100,000 adjustment payment covering 3 years of compensation that the board believed was below market per the new tax document known as a Form 990. Miller was the founder and president of America First Legal, or AFL, and last year, 2024, Miller received over $567,000 in total compensation. Between 2023 and 2024, his total income more than doubled from $266,600 to $567,000. But when he accepted the position in the Trump White House, his annual salary was only $195,200, less than he was even making in 2023. So the timing of these payouts, which again were not reported until now, is interesting. It seems as though they were trying to compensate for Miller's opportunity cost because we can all see that he made more money before he took his current job. America First Legal, of course, did not respond to questions about the payments when NOTUS inquired, but NOTUS was able to speak to someone about the payments. These facts raise questions about whether these payments were a so-called golden parachute, meaning bonuses paid on the basis of a person entering government service, said Brendan Fisher, Director of Strategic Investigations at the nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center, which provided a copy of the tax document to NOTUS. Notably, the Biden administration's ethics pledge generally banned golden parachute payments. President Trump has not adopted these same guidelines, but even under existing law, an official who receives a golden parachute is supposed to recuse themselves for 2 years from matters involving their former employer, Fisher said. That doesn't seem to be the case, though. Gene Hamilton, who is listed on the AFL website as its current president and co-founder, reportedly earned $673,000 from AFL. He, like Miller, also more than doubled his 2023 salary, and in both 2023 and 2024, he earned $120,000 from, quote, related organizations. Hamilton was earning $150,000 per year as special assistant to the president and deputy counsel, and in 2024, he received a bonus similar to Miller's, $125,000, and then $150,000 for, quote, an adjustment for the past 3 years of compensation, which the board believed was below market. What a nice board he has. Hamilton did leave AFL with Miller in January of this year for the White House, so those adjustments make sense, but Hamilton has since returned to the AFL. He went back in June, only to then testify before a Senate Judiciary Committee in July on matters related to DEI. But the fact that these payments were unknown until now is sort of AFL's thing. AFL was founded by Miller and Hamilton just after Trump's first term, and it was meant to be like a right-wing conservative answer to the ACLU. They used the legal system to fight for issues pertaining to things like DEI, but also immigration and so-called election integrity. And they've been successful in doing so, at least from an economic point of view. In 2022, they made $44.4 million, and last year they made $31.5 million. But maybe saying that they made that much is a bit misleading. In 2024, AFL received $21.3 million through Donors Trust, a right-wing dark money group that doesn't really disclose where it gets its money from. They boost plenty of right-wing Trump-aligned groups and causes, though. NOTUS reported earlier this year, Donors Trust gave America First Legal Foundation, a nonprofit founded by Trump's deputy chief of staff Stephen Miller, nearly $21.3 million in 2024, up from $3.2 million in 2023, according to the tax documents known as an IRS Form 990. The group disclosed nearly $1.4 billion in net assets or fund balances at the end of last year, giving out $284.1 million in grants in 2024 alone. In 2023, a record-setting year for the group, it gave out a whopping $351.2 million. So why does any of this matter? It almost feels silly to be talking about such small numbers. $175,000 to Stephen Miller. So what? We're used to hearing about people receiving millions or even billions of dollars from shady sources or benefactors or dark money groups or entire countries, and hardly anything ever seems to come from those stories. But we all know that no one gets into politics for the money, at least not for the salary. Yes, the salaries are good by any normal person's standards. Stephen Miller making nearly $200,000 a year as a deputy chief of staff, among other things, is not a small amount of money. Many people would be very happy to make that much money. But these aren't normal people, though. $200,000 is not that much for them, nor is it enough. And I'm not judging. Lots of people in lots of industries pull in $200,000 a year. It makes sense that they would be ambitious and looking upward. Also, you have to think about things like lifestyle creep. And remember, though, Miller was used to making much more money at his legal nonprofit. So he took a pay cut when he took his current job in the White House. But the compensation is noteworthy because it's a direct incentive for people who work in certain fields to then get involved in government. It acknowledges that money is often a primary motivator for people beyond civic duty, and it also understands that the fruits of capitalism are most often felt outside of the public sector. And all of this feels troubling, but it's really only troubling because it's Stephen Miller. It only bothers me because people like Stephen Miller and Gene Hamilton are getting paid to take lower salaries to work in our government and then, bastardize the very core of what it means to be an American. I don't like that Stephen Miller was compensated to terrorize the American people, but there are similar incentive programs that encourage and help people get into positions of power and influence on the left. And those programs are important. Plenty of people would get into politics if they could afford to do so. So programs like that help to prevent our country from just being run by a bunch of rich people. The caveat with this stuff, though, is that the money behind these campaigns and appointments and even social profiles should be made public. People don't like when this information is withheld. Also, dark money, that term gets thrown around somewhat loosely these days, but money distributed through Donors Trust is intentionally difficult to follow. On that, Donors Trust President and CEO Lawson Bader told NOTUS that the donor advised fund has multiple hundreds of active account holders, and that while the vast majority of our grants are made with some disclosure, donor advised fund providers offer donors the opportunity to withhold their identities from the grantee. I view donor privacy as a very important part of philanthropic freedom for everybody, regardless of ideological persuasion or the dollar amount, Bader said. But with anything, the idea that money can be used for good also means that it can be used for evil. And however donor money is being spent, it's still big money and big money donors deciding who leads this country. A possible solution to ending this arms race of donor money would be to just get money out of politics, but of course, we haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.